خير خلق الله نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, I welcome you to our program, our monthly program, the Unilomga lecture series. This is the 10th of its kind since these present executives came on board. And Alhamdulillah, since we started, we have had different types of lectures from, covering different topics, from finance to community building, to spirituality, to family foundation, and all sorts of beneficial Islamic topics. We've also invited eminent speakers, university lecturers, professors, ulama, shuyukh, and we also try to blend it with the youth. One of the sessions where we've given them the opportunity to shine their brightness and their brilliance is this one, where we are going to talk about a very important topic. Alhamdulillah. So we welcome us to this edition. May Allah make it easy for us. May Allah bless everything we've done. May Allah bless whatever we will do in the future. And may Allah make today's program a beneficial one for us. I ask Allah in His infinite mercy to use this as a positive catalyst towards improving our lives as Muslims, towards improving the Muslim community. May Allah may Allah accept it from us as an act of ibadah. Before we delve into today's program, I would like us to take a few moments, a couple of seconds, to extend invitations to our friends. I just send them the link and ask them to join. They do not have to be Unilomga members, okay? Because this topic is one that applies to every Muslim, irrespective of your affiliations. So we want everybody to benefit from this. So as you are coming, make sure you bring one or two people with you. A bit of background into today's program. We had something entirely different planned for this month, but then something came up, and it was an issue that shook everyone on Facebook, especially because we got to know of it was not just one incident. It was a series of incidents that happened back to back, and it had to do with financial misappropriation, okay, by some Muslim brothers and sisters who, under the guise of fundraising for people who needed medical attention, and then they siphoned the money, they misappropriated the funds. And then we felt like there couldn't have been a better time to discuss this issue, to address it. And then we had to change the the program we initially planned. For those who are regular on this program, you would know that this program usually comes up every third weekend. But because of that change and adjustments, we had to push it to the last weekend of the month. So this is why we are here. Today, we will be discussing a topic that you've all seen: Rethinking Islamic Philanthropy, Building Structures for Real Impact. Rethinking Islamic Philanthropy, Building Structures for Real Impact. And we've invited 3 capable brothers. 2 of them are alumni, and 1 is an invited guest. So we would like you to show them, especially Brother Ridwan, show him, love. Let's welcome him into our midst. Like we said, you don't have to be a member of the Muslim Graduates Alumni, Unilorin Muslim Graduates Alumni to be a part of this program. So I'll be reading their profiles very shortly, but then I want us to, okay, all right. So I want us to um, get our notepads ready. If you have a notebook or a pen by your side, please keep it there because you're going to be learning a lot on this program. And I would like us to, as we have usually been doing, let us remain mute unless we are told to speak for better, experience. May Allah make it easy for all of us. Once again, I welcome you to this program. May Allah, in His infinite mercy, reward us all for coming. So, inshallah, before again, it's going to be a panel discussion, okay, where the three invited guests will, have a discussion. They will answer questions and all of that. So it won't just be like the usual lecture that we have every other week, every other month. So this is how we're going to do it. For the first, 10 to 15 minutes, the first speaker, who is Brother Abdul Latif, would present the topic to us. And then for the remainder of the meeting, so we're going to open the discussion between the three of them. And then if we have time, we would like to take one or two more contributions from the audience. But from the moment Brother Abdul Latif begins his own job, I'll step back and he's going to moderate the panel session. So this is how it's going to go. But before we start, it will be very good for those of us who do not know our speakers. I would like to read a short profile for each of them. Okay. So I'll start with Abdul Latif Bello. Abdul Latif Bello is a non-profit strategist, fundraising architect, and community builder with over $20 million in managed impact and still counting. From raising $220,000 in 30 days to leading multi-million dollar programs across Africa and the US, Latif helps organizations move from "we have a dream" to "we hit our goal." His work spans philanthropy, faith-based development, health equity, and zakat-driven innovation, backed by partnerships with the EU, UNICEF, and the Tony Blair Institute. Latif's education has covered fundraising, philanthropy, nonprofits, and humanitarian leadership, with a Master's of Arts in Philanthropy from Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, a graduate certificate in humanitarian leadership from Zakat Foundation Institute, a graduate certificate in nonprofit management from Lagos Business School, and a certificate in interreligious dialogue from Nile University, Abuja, and Bayes University, Abuja. He is the founder of Greenworth LLC and currently the Director of Development for the Indianapolis Muslim Community Association, Indianapolis, United States of America. So that's the profile of Brother Abdul Latif. I have to apologize to my brother because what he sent was a bit longer. And I know he has achieved a lot, but because I would not want to use all the time to introduce him, so I just summarized this. So my brother, please pardon me. Next is my brother, my fellow engineer. Is Tope Salaudin, and he is a cost engineer in Nigeria's oil and gas industry, and the co-founder and COO, that's the Chief Operating Officer of Helper.me, a fundraising platform improving access to healthcare financing in Africa. He's a graduate of the University of Ilorin and Imperial College London, and he works at the intersection of energy, healthcare, and technology. He is passionate about sustainable impact. Passionate about sustainable impact, champions transparency and structure in philanthropy, with a focus on building systems that drive real long-term change. I know my brother has a longer profile. He's achieved a lot. I know he's a university scholar and all of that, but he has decided to keep it modest. Okay. May Allah bless all your endeavors. Jazakumullah khairan. And lastly, I'm going to introduce our dear brother, um, brother Ridwan Boyega. Ridwan is a seasoned software engineer and startup founder in the nonprofit and impact space. He has worked as a front-end engineer at, I don't know how to call this, at Hamway. Is that correct? Okay, at Hamway Technologies, Delaware, and Top Rates Transfer Australia, showcasing his versatility in the tech industry. He was the co-founder of Refac and co-builder of Arco Refac, a spiritual and general productivity app. He's also the founding software engineer for Advertisely at Zule, CEO and founder of Husnik Consulting Limited, and currently founder and founding software engineer of DynaRace, an ethical giving and crowdfunding platform for Africa. Jazakumullah khairan. Maybe during the course of the discussion, we'll get to know you better, and then we are looking forward to tapping from your wealth of experience. So all of these brothers that we have invited are people who are active in the fundraising and philanthropy space. And I'm very sure that we have one or two things to learn from them. So without further ado, I'll pass the mic to Brother Abdulatif Bello to make his presentation and then follow it up with the panel discussion. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa tabi'in bi sanillah yawmiddin. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the uncreated creator. May his peace, blessings, and benediction be upon the noble soul of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his household, his companions, and the generality of Muslims to the day of reckoning. Amen. We cannot but thank Allah, who has given us that privilege, that opportunity, that we are coming together to talk about Islamic philanthropy and rethinking it. It's a blessing and it's a privilege that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon each and every one of us. And when we talk about building structure for real impact, nobody talks about impact except somebody who cares about Islam. And as a concept of background about this series of talk about rethinking Islamic philanthropy, and if you see the word philanthropy itself, it's difficult to explain as much as it's difficult to pronounce sometimes. I have worked and lived philanthropy for a while, and sometimes you still see trying to trace the etymology of the word philanthropy. And so, why do we need to talk about philanthropy? Why money matters? Because when you think about the concept of Islam, the pillars of Islam itself, we see many of us, many Muslims, quite thousands, millions, if not billions of Muslims, as this talk, as what we call the three pillar Muslim. We have treated wealth as if it's something shameful. You know, that concept that, oh, Abdurrahman ibn Auf was one of those who was the richest Sahaba, yet he had to crawl into Jannah. And then I often ask the question, who gave you the impression, the thought, that if Abdurrahman ibn Auf was not rich, he might not even have entered Jannah? He's crawling. But he is able to enter Jannah. So that concept of treating wealth as if it's shameful, we speak of money. as if wanting more of it makes us less spiritual, make us less Muslim. And in doing so, what have we done? We have raised a generation of Muslim that is content with being what I call the three-pillar Muslim. Because yes, there's the Iman, there's fast, believe in Allah, the Psalm, and prayer, Salah. Those are the only 3 pillars out of 5. And think about it. Something as fundamental as these are the pillars on which your shahada, your salah, your prayer rest on. There are 5 of them that we must fulfill to be completely called a Muslim. These 3 does not require money. So we check these boxes. We feel safe in our faith and ignore the part of Islam that demand us to think bigger, to build, to lead, to create wealth with ihsan, and to leave a legacy and use our wealth for zakat. Because a poor Muslim cannot pay zakat. A poor Muslim cannot go to Hajj. You know, there is that thing we grew up with. Say, Tori Olorun de Mecca. You cannot go to the Nigerian airport or wherever the airline is and say, Subhanallah, for Allah's sake. That one does not do the job. So when you think about the concept of money in Islam, the mere 2 of the fundamental pillars requires money should tell us something, that Islam is not wanting us to be poor. And when we think about the time of the Sahaba, you hear this one have XYZ number of dinar. When you convert those money to this day, they many times is a lot of money. So money matters because money moves things. And if you are not using it with vision and ihsan, someone else will. So we work as Muslims. We work. We build. We create. And then what do? Then we give. Because a Muslim makes money and that money does not sit in their heart. They make money to make sure that they give it. For how do they give it? And that's the concept we want to talk about today. Muslims give generously. Generously, of course, we are a very generous community because every single thing when we hear about Islam, it will always encourage us to give. From zakat to sadaqah to work to fidya, we are commanded. The stream of giving in the Ummah are constant every single time. When you turn around, is either this period of giving or that other opportunity. It's always there. And by some estimates, Muslims globally give over $1 trillion annually in charitable contribution. In fact, there is a report by the ISPU that puts the Muslim community as one of the most generous community in the United States of America. And I mean, that one was just studying the concept. And that is in a community where there are only 5% of the entire population. But you know the uncomfortable truth. We have generosity without structure. We have giving without systems. We have compassion without coordination. And then everybody is always doing something all along. And what is the result that we see? Potential that never reaches its fullest impact. And we have this 1 billion, 1 trillion. Even in the Nigerian community, the amount of money that goes into zakat, that goes into sadaqah. I have worked within the ecosystem for a while. So when I talk about the figure, I know from moving a zakat fund campaign that I believe under 7 days, raising up to $84 million, 84 million naira in 7 days, in the last 10 days of Ramadan. So I know there is money within the Nigerian community that comes in form of zakat, sadaqah, and all of that. But what happens? This money just do what we call, we are just trying to patch, what we are patching. Patchwork is what we call it. So there's the promise and the gap. When we think about Islamic philanthropy, which literally, if we are trying to define that word, it's come from Latin, but it is the concept of giving. And in Islam, giving is not just an act of worship; it's a tool of transformation. When Prophet Muhammad established the Waqf of Medina, we would look at the story of Islam. There is the Mukharid orchards, a Jewish man who gave his orchard to the Prophet ﷺ, and the well of Rumah, where Uthman bin Affan bought the well and gave it to the Muslim community. The Prophet ﷺ did not just made all of these things charity. It was infrastructure that was for long-term benefits. How should this thing benefit the community? And that is why when you go to Hajj today, when you go to Medina today, you still hear about the work of Uthman bin Affan. There is long-termism built, ingrained into how they respond to societal problems. So, but what do we have today? Much of our giving is reactive, emergency appeal, disconnected initiative, duplication of effort that keep community dependent rather than empowered. And when we go online, we see quite a lot, and we are inundated with these requests. Now, our situation, our realities require that these things happen. But how should they happen is another part where we're talking about building structure for real impact. The first piece, I know that we're still going to be addressing because we have two brilliant brothers for which I'm familiar with their work. Talking about what they're doing, institutionalize zakat and sadaqah. If you build a transparent, accountable platform, and you see I put in highlight the concept of transparency and accountability for collection and distribution. Use data to identify needs and measure impact, and then prioritize programs that address root causes, not just symptoms. Because sometimes as we are reacting, we are very, very emotional. How can we use our zakat to not just be a tool to feed family for a week, but also fund micro businesses, education, and debt relief that break cycle of poverty? And when we think about a time when we are hearing, there was a time in Islamic history where Umar bin Abdulaziz was, during the Khilafah of Umar bin Abdulaziz, there were nobody to collect zakat. And then we ask ourselves the question, where did the rain start to beat us? What happened? So part of what we have to do is living our reality of today, which is reviving and modernize this process. There is institutionalization of zakat and sadaqah. There is revival and modernization of waqf. Today, you will see this impact fund, that fund, and Muslims will be running after so many funding institutions globally. In the Silicon Valley, I know only recently did we have Continuum, the first and one of the very rare impact fund that was going to be funding Muslim enterprise in big numbers. And that was a trial. So WACF it started, and historically, even in philanthropy, the use of WACF started from, now we call it endowment. You know how we anglicize and call different names. things different name so that it doesn't attach to Islam. The original concept of social fund comes from Islam. So what has WACF done for us historically? It sustains school, hospital, and roads, and there is no donor fatigue because there is long-term built into it. And even in the Islamic faith community that I have worked in, the concept of donor fatigue, that which means that donors are tired, does not exist. There's only donor abuse. There is donor abuse, and we have seen it in various forms and in different styles, where somebody can just wake up today and say, oh, I need 200 million for XYZ, and then build something, and he keeps reading, and 20% now achieved. How do we manage our emotion with giving? Then invest in capacity and collaboration, where you create a member of giving circle that involved in the decision-making process, where it is fubu for us, by us. Learning about charitable organizations, where are the non-profit organizations that are doing something in this area, and they are also understanding what they are giving into and the why. Because when we think about the how we build LAI, the linkage, ability, and interest. That's how donation, connection, and building impact work anytime. There's a linkage to somebody who is interested in something. I love young people, and I always want to give to anything that supports young people. If I find anything that is involving young people, that's where I want to spend my time. That's where I want to spend my energy. That's where I want to spend my money. So if you can link me to that resource that supports young people, I am very, very interested in. Then there is the ability. I have the ability to give, to mobilize people to give to that cause. And once I have the ability to give, which is the money, then there is interest. Am I interested in education? Am I interested in youth? So because I'm interested in youth, it's easy. You're not going to fatigue me, because that's what I want to use my life on. I want to use my money on. I want to volunteer for. But if you abuse the fact that you have access to me, which is linkage, then I'll find somewhere else to give. So this impact structure we are talking about, it aligns with the maqasid of Sharia. And that is, our initiative should be, evaluated through the lens of the maqasid, the higher objective of preserving faith, life, intellect, lineage, and wealth. So it is a misuse of our Islamic understanding to throw our wealth away. And I have the money, I can give it, even if it swindles me. It's between him and Allah. Yes, but you should also take care and not waste your money. So the idea of this is, how do we transform philanthropy from charity as a relief to charity as justice? Because it is justice that those who really need this money are the one that should get it. So we are using it to build system that dignifies and empower others. From pious intention to strategic action. It is not enough, feasibly, like it's not enough to give for the sake of Allah, because that's always, the marketing pitch. Every single time, everywhere you turn through. Yes. Even though intention remains central, we give for the sake of Allah anyway. But how do we ensure that every naira, every work facet, every act of sadaqah translates into measurable, sustainable change? Whether you are helping somebody health or you are trying to support education of someone, how do you make sure that it's doing the job? Donors' intent. Because everybody that gives money has an intention behind it. On the relief side, You know that the Prophet ﷺ did not just build an hunger relief system. You just go and get food and go back. Like we have so many refugee community or people who are so dependent that they refuse to work. Remember that man who went to the Prophet ﷺ to beg. And what did the Prophet say? Would it not be better? What do you have? And then he took some money, he sold it. He did not even give him, here is the money, go and buy this. What do you have? Go and sell it. Buy an axe. It's better for you to go in, chop the wood, sell it, make money. That's dignifying. Yes, according to scholars of that hadith, they said that the Prophet ﷺ provided relief for him to address his immediate need by asking, who of your companion will take him and feed him? They did that so that he's strong enough, go back home, find what you can sell, get the money, and use it to start a business. And that is why many of the work we do, we ensure that we're not just doing handouts to our community, because we're just going to build a lazy, entitled community. B. Abdurrahman bin Auf, who was talking to Saad Arabi when he made the generous offer that, oh, here's my property. All I need to do is just divide it into half. Abdurrahman bin Auf did not jump up and say, Mashallah, Alhamdulillah. Thank you, my brother. He didn't jump up. He said, just show me the way to the market. He was watching out for his brother as much as he was watching out for himself. And the Saad bin Arabi was also watching out for him. So he did not feel like, oh, this brother is a parasite. So here's the concept. We're going to give as much as we can, and we're going to ensure that we are giving to somebody who knows that al-yad al-ulya khayr min yad al-sufla, that the upper hand is better than the lower hand, not somebody who wants to definitely depend on that handout. So that's how we build community. The outcome-oriented collection and expenditure, we see this example of how even Umar ibn Khattab developed a fiscal policy that included zakat, which is building a Baitul Mal and structuring things, guided by the principle of adil, justice, and public welfare, which is maslaha. Also our CTA. So that's all of this talk. And I know my other brothers have, very dynamic and interesting take on this issue. My own CTA, to donor. And I have seen on this call some of my friends, people who I know give every single time. Think beyond. Yes, you will give to emergency because they are real and indeed real case of emergency. Invest in structures. Invest in structures. And when I say invest in structure, I'm not talking about these things just, for the purpose of it's good to hear. We're talking about a system that is currently being built of how do we really empower our community to do things right and do things the right way. And every single time I've talked about to different CAT community and institutions in Nigeria and in the global community, we see how people are using zakat to help change system. So if you're a non-profit leader, build system of transparency. So this question of, oh, you should trust me. In Islam, there is trust, but you also verify. That's the speed of trust. Trust, but verify. And it's even good for you who is leading the non-profit or who is collecting funds on behalf of other people. Because that's what shows that you don't just believe in yourself, you're not putting yourself in harm's way. And here, philanthropy, we build different multiple systems to ensure that our community is stronger. For scholars and policymakers, support the creation of framework that revives zakat and waqf in ways that meet today's need. Because this old way of somebody, and I've seen it, somebody can wake up and say, now I'm setting up a zakat collection institution. And I mean, it feels like an open market where somebody can just, oh, I'm setting up a fundraiser. There's no accountability. Is that how we run a community, a pillar? And that's how people abuse it. Just like you cannot just do, you can't wake up and say, oh, I want to pray Fajr at 4 a.m. because I'm going to be tired in the morning. There's also the concept of how your zakat should do what it's supposed to do. It's sadaka. It doesn't matter. But do you just play nawafil anyhow? You don't do that. So that is why these things should happen. Because Islamic philanthropy is more than charity. Its power, its dignity, its infrastructure for an ummah that thrive and not just survive. The future of our giving lies in moving from reaction to strategy, from fragments, which there are a lot of fragmented efforts, And I have seen those things in action. I've had reason to connect hearts and people together to see this, what you're doing is connected to what this other person is doing. Think collaboratively and from good intention to great impact. And I would now pause and I would want to say, Jazakallah khair. This is also provide a background to the conversation that we are going to be having. And now is the time I want to, I believe Brother Ridwan and Brother Musliuddin is right here on the call. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's nice to talk again.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Now, Jazakallah khair. So, I'm going to, just pivot very quickly because I'm really mindful of time. I might be missing the time zone thing because it's pretty much early here. It's midnight, so I would invite Brother Akinde to keep me in track with regards to what times look like in that sense. So I would start with Dr. Salaudin. And, in my conversation, I talked about emotion. Sometimes, we see heartbreaking videos on WhatsApp, whether on broadcasts. It makes us give instantly, only to later regret it. How do you think we can balance the compassion with wisdom when giving, and how as you as helper help to kind of streamline this concept of between compassion and not just wasting your money, because again, like we did say, this is our asset that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us how we spend our money. So how do we balance when our emotion is high, and what are you doing to help resolve that?
All right. It's nice to take this invitation by my big brothers, and I'm glad to be here. So just to not spend too much time, one thing I would like to say from the experience working in the fundraiser space, especially the most emotionally driven one, which is the healthcare space, because that's where we primarily operate in at Helper. One thing we've noticed is one thing that is almost a fact is people are emotional first, then logical next. So you're first driven by your emotions, then the logic kicks in. So I would want to address this topic in terms of from the perspective of the donor and also the perspective of the people that are championing causes. So if you're a donor and you see an emotionally charged video and you instantly want to take out your card or your bank app, it's not abnormal. In fact, it makes you perfectly normal, and it means you have a healthy heart, because it means you can see something that you feel is injustice and actually act on it. So don't feel bad. even if it turns out to be wrong initially, yeah, eventually. However, what I will tell you is, in terms of the emotion, always take a step back. Ask yourself, okay, now this is what is happening. Do I trust the person? Because first thing is, do I trust the person championing this cause? And the reason why I say that is it will be practically impossible for every donor to actually do the verification required to make sure that a case is genuine. It's not practical. I mean, we all can't go to the hospital for any case that we want to donate to. It's not practical. So one thing you should first ask yourself is, do I trust this person? And another thing you could do is just maybe take a picture. Sometimes, because one thing we've also seen is people take a random case online and then try to whip up emotion from it to extort people. So what you can also do is maybe do a quick Google search of the image or of the video. And alhamdulillah, things are easy to do now. Just do that. If it is something that exists on the internet already in another with another narration, I would probably want to stay away from that. So that's from the donor perspective. Don't feel too bad, even if you donate to something that eventually becomes a scam. It is not you that is to blame. It is the people that have swindled or have defrauded you, and those are where the blame should lie. And if it's possible for you to bring them to justice, please do that and pursue that as much as you can. But you donating from an emotional angle, it's perfectly fine, and Allah would perfect your reward afterwards. Secondly, for the people that are actually championing causes, these are the people that now have responsibility to make sure that whatever they are championing is actually legitimate. So if you are a person that is into fundraisers or NGOs, and even on us on Helper too, is you make sure that as much as you can, you verify the case. Because now you are not just a random person donating, you are actually the person asking people to come and bring their money, and your reputation is on the line as well. So it is on you to not just hear a sobbing story and then quickly run into it, or you quickly just draft out an email, a broadcast and start championing it. You will put your reputation on the line, and you will be a channel for someone that is potentially a bad actor to defraud the public. So that way you, the NGO person, have a responsibility to make sure that anything you are championing is actually right. But from the donor side, also make sure the person you're donating to is someone you can trust, and also do a quick check if you could see is something similar on the internet. And if you can see, then just avoid that. It's likely a scam. I hope I've been able to answer the question now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dean. For Baradwan, you know, why Musudin was discussing, part of what he talked about was, you know, literally safety. So many of us want to, you know, help, but we don't know how to tell. How do we tell a real fundraiser, like a real one from a fake one? And what are the simple ways? We already talked about reverse image. So for you, you have this platform that you have used to raise more than, you know, maybe about 50-70 million in a quarter when you started out the first quarter. So I'm really curious, what do you do? How do you do your due diligence to ensure that this is not fake? Have you seen the cases of fake? How did you deal with that?
Yeah, thank you very much. And once again, I would also lead by saying it's a nice avenue for me to be in your midst, and I really appreciate the invite. And I really appreciate the thought around this discussion, and I hope it's going to lead to much more sustainable development that we're looking towards. Yeah, like you said, it's easy to find a lot of fraudulent claims around people trying to raise funds. And actually, I've also seen a lot on the platform, on our own platform as well. So the process is a bit manual as to trying to verify and validate, because like my brother said, now we are like the guarantor for the people that are trying to raise funds, listing on some of these platforms that we're trying to put down so that we can have more structure around our charities. So yeah, I've seen people, I've seen it, a specific campaign now, I remember, has a different date of birth on the ID card. The name on the official name is different from what the BVN is carrying. So like a lot of many nitty-gritty things would not check. And I'm very sure my brother as well have such systems within their platform that they use to try and verify and validate the authenticity of the fundraiser before now getting to whatever their claim is. So those are what we tend to look for. The identity verification of the individual. Alhamdulillah, we have systems that at least take it a bit a step further, even if you are trying to, if the person is totally unknown, like a total stranger, we have systems that we can leverage in technology to fact check their identity to start with. Then, when you now get to seeing what they are actually claiming, if it's a case for school fees, it's a case for health, or just trying to paint any community project, the additional thing I try to look for is, does the story check? And it's important that they make clear their plan for the use of funds. So from having the fundraiser themselves do these extra things beyond just doing a flyer and posting it out, you get to start seeing where is the consistency in the story, where is the genuinity, the authenticity in whatever the claim is. Yeah, and then if it's health, you can try and reach out to medical personnel to check out whatever document is presented. If it's for education, you can take extra steps like saying we are paying directly to your portal, to your school portal, instead of giving you the fund, and you just go away with it. So I think in short, these are some of the processes that I think, given a structured environment, we get to make the best of people's generosity.
All right, Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. The topic, this concept that we have also seen in our community is when we have big names behind a fundraiser, and of course I know we want to use big names to pull weight behind our fundraiser. So how do we tend to trust those big names because there's a lot of following, whether on Facebook, Instagram, and all of that. So how do we balance and address that trust with those big names while we have smaller but effective organization or individual direct need that may not have big names behind them? So are there ways you think the community can really rally around those who do not have big names around them without the fear of fraud?
You're muted.
You're muted.
All right, so apologies for that. So just can you just reframe the question so I would exactly know where I'm going to?
So how do we support smaller organizations or individuals that do not have big names behind them in our community without the fear of fraud?
All right. So thank you for that. Before I even go into the question, I would like to mention that fraud can happen from big and small names. One thing that we've noticed over time, one thing that, at least from my experience, is sometimes even the big names might not know they are being a conduit to fraud. So in terms of the big names, yeah, they sometimes do have a lot more to lose. However, it doesn't mean that they themselves might not be bad actor. In fact, one could argue that they probably have the bigger potential because of the trust that they've established to be bad actors and actually defraud the public. I just needed to clarify that big name does not automatically translate to trust. Meanwhile, small name too does not automatically translate to distrust. However, when it comes to smaller names, the truth is human human sentiments always aligns with people that they trust. So what I would recommend, or what I would say, is for the small names, first of all, from their own part, and then I'll come to the donating public. From their part is you need to work on earning the trust of the people, because it's easier for, say, Bill and Melinda Gates to raise a lot more money than someone, a smaller player. It's not because the small player might not even be closer to where the impact is. It's just because people tend to just donate to people they know and trust. It's human sentiment, it's human nature, because all these tend to stem from psychology. So for a smaller player, and you know that you are close to impact, one thing you should need to do is you need to earn the trust of the people. First of all, you need to be a lot more transparent than even a bigger player would be. You need to show clearly where the money is coming from, or how much money is coming in, and how much and how exactly you are spending that money. So trust is not given, it is earned. That's one part of it. For the people that are donating, I will tell you what I would, the charge that I would like to make is, just like in life, we could all give our money to big players. However, sometimes you need to help younger people or smaller people grow. So with that, I would say, if you see someone that is just coming up and you can see the impact they're making, maybe they are closer to the people, to the vulnerable people that they are actually trying to support, and you could see that they are showing trust, or they are showing transparency and accountability. Please don't just focus on the big names alone. Support these people, because that is sometimes what I've known is this smaller player actually closer to the grassroots where this help is needed. So that's my charge to the people donating. Don't just look at the big names alone. Actually look at those people too. That, yeah, they're not that big yet, but they're actually showing signs that they are trustworthy and they are genuine and they are being accountable and transparent. So you focus on that grassroots as well. And that's the good thing about platforms like Dinaries and Helper. We give everyone an equal chance. It doesn't matter whether you're a big name or a small name, we give you those equal chance. Yeah, sure, the people with bigger names will tend to complete their campaigns faster. However, it doesn't mean the smaller names who don't have a choice to showcase themselves with us as well. So that's the charge to the donors, and then to the small names, you'd have to earn the trust and become big eventually. Now,
Yeah, I don't know if I can add to that a bit. Can you hear
yeah,
me?
sure.
Yeah, so I totally agree with what Brother Toko has mentioned. And additionally, I would just like to say it's easier now to communicate and try to demonstrate your authenticity, because no matter who is raising funds, no matter who is trying to gather support, it always starts with people that know you and trust you. Even if it's the big names, they earn whatever they're able to achieve from the trust they've built over time. So especially for young actors, I think one thing that I'm also a bit guilty about is not showing enough of what you're doing. So if you are a small actor, you are closer to where the impact is going to happen. You've been doing this for a while now. Where is your digital footprint? Who knows what you've been doing? So as long as you're able to start, well, first, as Muslims, doing it sincerely, not for the clout, but secondly, like Mr. Bello had said during the intro, Islam, we are encouraged to trust, but we need to show proof. So you are somebody who is very, very passionate, like we all are, right? You are very, very eager to see changes. As soon as you start making efforts, let people around you see what you're doing, know what you're doing, show transparency, leverage social media, leverage whatever means you can try to adopt, so that people see you, see what you're doing. Anybody at any time can check up your claims and see the real traction you have on a transparent platform. So that's just what I would like to add to that.
All right, thank you, Jazakallah khair. I see how we are moving forward with this conversation, and I believe it's just starting to get interesting. And part of what I've always wondered and see happening within our community is where, when we think about appeal. It's always constant. There is always something to do, people that need help, someone that needs school fees, somebody that, so, and it's so much that it's like every single direction you turn your face, there's, you know, somebody, some group, and everything, you know, asking for money. And the biggest concern is when you look at, because like Mr. Tokwe said, we are very, you know, emotional before we're rational. Because sometimes, in fact, people who have lived experience tend to be more vulnerable themselves when they become donor. Because there's that feeling like, oh, there was a time I was in this bottom rung of the ladder, so now is the time to give back. I just have to show up for people, maybe because other people did not show up for me. So how do we manage to help people stay ethical and not exaggerate need? Because of course, sometimes they are anticipating that because things are always changing, cost is not constant, especially when you think about healthcare. So they may say, I need 30 million now. And if the money doesn't complete in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, it could be up to 50 million. So how do we, you know, help manage that kind of situation where, yes, we could argue logically that, oh, they just wanted to put some additional, you know, cost in case things changes. Now, that question is going to be too tough. So how do we manage that kind of, you know, process where people intentionally add up the fee or cost of something? They just bump it up. The second piece is we've seen cases of fundraisers where, you know, they are fundraising for health of someone, allow will that that person passes, you know, died before the help, they received the help. Have you had that experience? What happened to that kind of money? That is that money the family's money? Is that money your platform money? Is that money a Muslim community money? So how have you had that experience? How have you dealt with that? Maybe I'll start with Brother Ridwan, then I move to Brother Salaudi.
All right. So I think this also follows some of the things we've been mentioning, especially starting from you're anticipating changes in situations, then you want to exaggerate a bit on the claims. I believe it all comes down to the transparency in the communication, and it's not always easy from the mundane or the typical channels that people try to communicate their appeal to people. See, for example, we are trying to raise funds. We have an account number we've put out to people to donate. Then we feel like we've gotten 5 million, but we need, or we've realized we are going to be needing 8 million instead of the initial 7 million. Then we get an extra 1.5 before we make an update that we have reached this amount. So that it can happen in a discrete manner that way, but it can also happen by outrightly just exaggerating ahead. I think that is one of the downsides of the typical approaches that we take to fundraising, and which some of the renewed efforts that my brother and I are trying to champion. That's where the beauty comes in. So I have a specific fundraising campaign. They needed to raise around 9 million. They raised beyond 9 million initially. So the hospital they were trying to, it was OAU in Ife that they were going to be admitted in. But then it got there, they were told there was like the spaces have been booked up to next year. Then they have to go and find another hospital. Then from there, they realized that things have changed. cost is not going to be the same going to a private hospital than a public than the government one. So things like that, coming from a structured platform where you have the ease and the liberty of enhanced communication with donors, you are easily able to say an update to this fundraising campaign, this has happened, then now we need to get more than we initially set out to do. I think that is the consciousness that we all need to start looking at, especially in embracing some of these other tools that are at our disposal now. I think that is a very valid issue. Another issue, similar one that I have, is the one I've highlighted before, the question of using an account. You see one organization doing fundraising, but they are using the same account they used to collect other donations for the same fundraising campaign or fundraising appeal that they are doing. So I think it's very imperative, but there's the gap there. So the one that I've experienced so far, the measure that I've put down for that, especially on our platform, is make clear the initial targets you want to raise, be explicit enough about the breakdown of the costs. Whatever you need, let it be clear in your description, in your story, so that when things have to change, you're able to reference and clarify accordingly that this is what is changing. And I think when there is now excess, it can depend on various policies. Or say, for example, we now figure out after trying our due diligence in the first instance that the person or the claim turned out to be fraudulent, like it can happen. So I think one of the processes I've seen that I'm more inclined to is refunding donors if possible. So it's not the platform's money outrightly, it's not the fundraiser's money outrightly, but it's just a matter of finding a system that works. The priority is it should be for the donor's decision. So it can now be from a point of having a policy that the donors themselves might be aware. I think I saw on GoFundMe that if anything happens, the fundraiser is not going to get the fund. They have sort of a mechanism that can refund the donor. So I think that is like the best case scenario. Then if that is not possible, we can fall back to diverting it to other similar fundraising campaigns, for example. That still is closer to serving the donor's interest. Or now saying maybe you raise excess than you need, we can take a bit for platform services. I think especially in our climb here, it's not possible to charge as much as is needed to keep our platforms up as fundraising platform. I believe that will almost be the same for Brother Tokwe and the team at Helper. We are doing this more because of passion and we want to see the change. It's not really for the money. So at times that can also be justified. So I think that's my own perspective and experience around it.
Yeah, I just want to very much jump onto that piece. You know, when I said, donors should fund systems and support structure that make things work. Those are some of the conversation I was alluding to, because if we are trying or all asking for transparency, and I've done a lot of fundraiser for baseline. I tell people there's a difference between fees sabilillah and fee sabilillah. So if it's fees, I will charge you, and we are going to stay professional because it's fees you got to pay, right? And if I'm doing it for Allah's sake, it's clear that this is for Allah's sake, and it takes money to raise money. And if we want better transparency, better system, better support system that ensure that we get what we want, then we have to be willing and ready to fund it. So I think the conversation should also begin to steer towards making those structure better. I'm not sure if Chokwe is with us, but okay. So I wanted to have your take. Have you had a peculiar experience of, this money no longer serves this donor? What did you do, or what is your policy as helper when that kind of situation happens?
Helper. All right. Now, first of all, I would like to mention something before I answer the question. I mean, it's a little going off on a tangent, but I'll all bring it back together. First of all, one of the things that I'm, like I said, always passionate about is sustainable charity and sustainability in whatever we're doing. So I would first of all mention that we operate almost exclusively in the healthcare sector, in the healthcare space. So I would like to mention that fundraiser is not the solution to is not the perfect solution to the healthcare situation that we have. As much as possible, we should even put in systems that would not even make us come to the public to ask for fund. Why I'm saying this is there is this expectations within the community that anything happens, the moment you can no longer fund it, that the only option available is for you to fundraise. But there's actually something you could do that would not even make you, I mean, to some extent, not need to fundraise at all. It's getting registered with HMO. And alhamdulillah, I think we're beginning to have halal health insurance companies now. I can't remember one on top of my head, but I know there are a few of them coming up now. So please, my charge to everyone on here is register with an HMO. What that will do is it would even preclude you to some extent of needing to even come to the public to raise funds. So that way it will limit or reduce the burden on the public of funding everybody's fundraisers. Because with a HMO, you can actually to some extent be sure that most of your medical needs will be catered for because you paid a little maybe premium or something in the beginning of the year. So that is one side of it. So please, if anyone here can get a HMO, please do. So that way the burden on the public of funding, because what happens is medicals and healthcare are an emergency, and they would always trump long-term sustainable projects that we could do with money. You cannot be building schools when people are here about to die. So let's first of all limit the burden of the healthcare fundraisers by getting health insurance and at least getting that sorted. So now with that mentioned, I'd like to come to the actual question of if we've had a case of someone over raising. Now, the needs no longer serve. So we've had instances of people raising funds and then dying before completing the fundraiser, or there is money on ground, but the person eventually died before using up all the funds. So what we do at Helper is we're always weighing the options, but often what we resort to is because some of the money has been spent, it would be very difficult to then start returning the money back to the donors. So what we do is we often, with the permission of the people that, because before I even go to that one, I would say any money that is raised on Helper does not belong to the person outrightly. It still belongs to the public, except that it is earmarked for this person. That distinction is important in case of death. If the money belongs to the person ab initio, it means it becomes the estate of the people, of the person that has died. So what we make, the distinction that we make and we make it public is the money does not belong to you. It belongs to the public, and the public said we should use it to treat you. Insofar you are being treated from the money, we'll still keep treating you with the money. However, the moment you are no longer able to receive the treatment, the money now belongs back to the public. And what we do as part of the trust in the public is we divert it to other fundraisers sometimes, and sometimes, often that's what we do, because the mechanism of returning it back to the donors will become, given the current technology that we have, will be a little more tricky and more dicey. So what we do is we divert it, like Brother Ridwan has said, we divert it to similar fundraisers to make sure that at least the interest of the public and the public entrusting us with the money, the interest is still served. But we do not. The best we'll do is, if the person dies, we'll take care of pending bills, the bills that are on ground. And if there are any expenses related to the janaza, sometimes we actually give money. If the family is not able to take care of that, we give money towards that. But anything beyond that now comes back to the public, and then it is diverted to serve the public interest by giving it to other people or similar cases that need the money too. But we do not give it to the heirs of the because we believe that is not in the best interest of the, because the liability of taking care of other people is still on ground and not to be inherited. And this is one of the challenges that we have with donating to people's personal bank accounts. It's difficult to measure, to monitor all this. If you donate 20, 30, 40 million to the account of a person and the person dies, how do you recover it from the people and say, no, there are other people that are also in need of similar funds? How do we get it from them? I mean, it becomes dicey. So if the family are fearing, God fearing, let me put it that way, they might say, okay, part of it, please take to this other person that has a kidney failure. But if
not just are they not just going to feel like, oh, if we had money in the first place, we wouldn't be,
the public are not donating to make you have money.
It's not have money. It's like now we just transfer the money to the care of the widow, because now
if you want to raise money for the care of the widow, that's a different conversation.
That's a different
conversation.
Well, we do, we do Sadaka to Jaria on behalf of this.
So these are conversations that we could have. But the money was donated because the person is sick. And now that is no longer applicable, I think it is fair for us to just return back the money to public trust and then use it for what the public intended. But like I said, so these are also conversations that we could start having in terms of sustainable charity and structured charity, like you said. How do we take care of our widows? How do we take care of our orphans? How do we take care of our divorcees without needing to resort or come back to the public every time? So these are structures that Wakfu could help us take care of. But in terms of just quick fix emergencies, I think it's only fair that we prioritize healthcare above all those things, the other ones, especially. All right, so that's it.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know what you said about HMO, not Takafu, reminded me of a project we piloted within the Muslim community where we put about I think it was 500 or 1,000 Muslims on an HMO plan, and it was a stack where put them in through the HMO, which is like the basic, and we see how small things quickly become big because people don't have the money or the resource to fix small things and depend on, we will do low MacBook. I saw people talking about fixing it through traditional medicine, even if it was cancer. We have solution for everything. So, and because you did that, it kind of just, broadened the spectrum, because we're not able to unpick all the people that need stacks of support. So it's like a very transformative program where we had like very broad, over 500 people in the health insurance. We picked 100 of them for business support to strengthen their business. And then we pick another, I think 20 or 30 to support their, child's education. So that way, what we're doing is transforming those people who benefit through that spectrum from dependencies. So first, anything that comes that is emergency is health. So you build that stacks. And by the time these people goes through, whether it's 1 or 2 or 3, you are able to assess, that you have had meaningful contact with an organization. And that probably, I agree with you that, you are like Action Against Hunger, who said we exist so that we don't exist. The moment there's no hunger in the land again,
yes,
organization should close shop.
Exactly.
If we don't have people who are begging for healthcare,
Thank you.
why should we? We probably go and do something else. But this is exciting. I'm going to pass the button for some time to Brother Abu Hafiz. I have to go for Fajr. And inshallah, we'll join back this session.
Okay. Thank you very much. I've just been sitting here enjoying the conversations. I like to hear from the experts because I'm no expert in this field. I think because of the time we have 10 minutes to round off. I'm going to ask this question. Okay. Following the recent scandal that a lot of people witnessed on Facebook about misappropriation, a debate came up. Who should do fundraising? Is it individuals or organizations, charity organizations, or organizations who have structures like a social enterprise structure, who should be saddled with the responsibility of fundraising? And a sister asked a question. She made a suggestion that we should all agree that individuals should not stop. And I said, who are the we? Who is going to say, no, stop it? This is what we are going to do. Is it possible? That question goes to both of you. And I think that will be the last question before we move to something else. So you have 2 minutes each, inshallah. So I'll be starting with Brother Ridwan.
All right. Thank you very much. So I think I stumbled on a funny stat that over the last decade, we've seen the growth of NGOs registration in Nigeria to up to 190,000. Well, I'm also a corporate because my so I had one thing I used to do in school around fundraising as well. So I wanted to transition it to a more structured setting because I wanted to be more transparent. I wanted to have better structures around it. But I did not have a need for an NGO. I do not, because I was not even ready. It's not really my plan. But I went through the troubles. I got an NGO registered. Now, I'm not even doing anything with it. And the case is, we say, see something, do something, see something, be ready to make a change where necessary. So if we say individuals should not fundraise, then we are leaving our affairs up to maybe the leaders that we complain every now and then that they are not ready to ease our affairs or look at our plight, right? And that is essentially one of the reasons why I pivoted into building what I'm currently building, which is more like a system that allows individual actors to participate in community development. But before they do that, they get verified, they get a voice of their own, they get a platform where they can showcase what they are doing without necessarily having to go and set up something new or having a new entity altogether just to have some legitimacy. So I think rather than saying individuals should not fundraise, if we say that, we are going to cut off a lot of things that we can improve in our community. I, for one, if I were not doing that, I can count a lot of people I've helped, a lot of school fees I've been able to facilitate their payment as an individual, right? So if we close that channel, we are closing a lot, but we shouldn't really leave it all open as well. And I think that's where the work that, alhamdulillah, that we were brought here, me and Brother Tokwe, comes in. And many others that might still come up, is around giving structures and model and sustainability to how we promote and empower social impact in our community. So rather than saying no, we should say, let's have a platform or a system that we can agree to its credibility that allows individual actors, corporate actors, whoever it is, so long as we are ready to go through the system that represents the general public, the general donors. And I think you have a good example with Helper, people have trusted them, it's in tens of millions, maybe now hundreds of millions that has been donated through there. I think that's a good example of we should not say individuals should not fundraise, but we should rather find ways to make it serve the best interests of our communities. So I think that's what I would say.
Jazakumullah khairan. Over to you, Brother. Okay.
You're muted. You're muted.
Still muted.
Yeah, still muted.
Okay, I'm back. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so I would say I agree with what Brother Ridwan has said. Cutting off individuals, because the good thing with individuals is we individuals are closer to where the impact is, and I don't think the conversation actually was around should individuals fundraise. I don't think the entire conversation was that. The conversation was around how should individual fundraise. So, in terms of big NGOs, Sadaqah Jariyah, that have multiple people that have access to their accounts that could manage and monitor. I mean, there's some system. It's very difficult for one bad actor to misappropriate funds, because at the end of the day, what people are after is the impact should be felt. It doesn't matter if it's a big NGO or a small one or an individual. It's all about the impact. And with big NGOs, one thing that they normally should have is multiple trustees that have access to their accounts. So for them, I think they could essentially continue with their current structure, their current system, insofar they can be transparent and accountable to the public, so the public will know what exactly the money has been used for. However, for individuals, it's a little more dicey, because now as an individual, you are the sole signatory to the account, or even as a small NGO that you are the sole trustee, you are the sole signatory to the account. How should we go about it? Because at the end of the day, it's wrong for us to donate and then you misappropriate the funds. I mean, it's not in our interest to destroy capital. This is a money that I could use to just buy shawarma and just eat and be fine. But I've decided to give it to you because I've entrusted it to you, and then you decide to not be accountable. So individuals should please continue to donate, to fundraise, to champion fundraisers. However, make it structured. Let us know exactly where or how much you've gotten. Because we could donate 1 million to your account and you come out and you say you've only gotten 300,000. How would we verify that? How do we ascertain that? So individuals should please not stop. Like Brother Ridwan has said, on an individual level, it makes impact. And I believe many of us do make impact, sometimes by getting money from other people, sometimes by just doing it from out of our pocket. So individuals should please continue. However, there is a need to make it structured, be transparent, be accountable. And alhamdulillah, there's helper, there's dinaries to ensure that happens. But even if you're not going to use helper and dinaries, okay, one thing you can do is at least set up a structure. If what you are interested in is the impact, set up a structure that makes it almost impossible for you to misappropriate funds, because the spirit of money is strong. Sometimes it starts with, oh, let me borrow small money. Oh, I have a money coming. Let me borrow small. At least I'm the only one that knows this. And then you borrow, and then you realize that the money coming can no longer take care of the amount that you've borrowed. Please help yourself. I mean, help yourself. Put in structures in place as an individual. Yes, please champion the causes you believe in, but don't tempt yourself. Don't betray the public. If you're finding it difficult to, dinaries is the helper is there to make it easier for you to be accountable. But that is the most important thing. Be accountable. Don't be too arrogant to not want to be accountable to the people, because at the end of the day, it is the public trust, it is the public funds, and you owe it to Allah and to them to be accountable on how you get the money, on how you're spending their money. I believe I would stop here. And like Brother Ridwan said, many of us are into it with the passion. I mean, a lot of my personal funds have gone into help. Would I ever get it back? I don't know. Would I ever grow to the point that now we can even get paid salary? So my effort, my money is going into it. I'm sure the same for dinaries too. The reason why we're doing this is to make sure that we solve this problem of unethical practices that are happening in the fundraiser space, and to make sure that to some extent the monies that are gathered are actually used for the causes they are designed to be used for, and not just us destroying capital. And one last thing, even if you're an individual, you want to raise funds, there is nothing wrong with you getting paid from it, but be transparent. Because one of the people that are even liable to zakah, people that are working in terms of in the trust of it. So if you are going to take a certain amount from the money, be transparent. People will not say you should. We know that you're spending your time that you could use to earn a living elsewhere. So if you know that, oh, from this amount that is raised, oh, my fees is 10%, let people know. Even if it is 20%, let people know. And if they are comfortable with that, then they will donate to you still, knowing that, yeah, 20% of the money will be used for your own personal expense. That's what we're asking for. Don't just shout everything in mystery and make it look like you're doing the public a favor by taking the money from them. Yeah.
Jazakumullah khairan. Just before you go, we have helper, we have dinaries.
Yes.
What exactly do you do? 1 minute each. Tell us what you do in 1 minute. Tell us what you do in 1 minute.
I'll take the floor to my brother. What are you doing?
No, go ahead. I think I spoke first. You can.
Essentially,
you can go ahead.
what Helper does is we provide the platform. So we are a tech startup where we provide the platform for people that are critically ill or NGOs to come to the public and raise funds in a transparent way. So we also support in terms of giving publicity to these campaigns. But what we do primarily is to make sure that people that are ill, not just critically, people that are sick are able to raise funds from the public in a way that is safe and transparent, and they can get the money from almost anywhere in the world. Yeah. So that's just a summary of us. Just think of us as a Nigerian medical GoFundMe.
Yeah.
And then for NGOs as well. Yes.
Over to you, brother Ridwan.
Yeah. So we're similar, but ours is also trying to give a platform for individuals, especially, and organizations to have their repository of impact. So still think GoFundMe, but for any individual willing to make a change. So you have your profile page. Anybody, anytime can look at your bio. They can look at the fundraising campaigns you've done over time. They can look at each fundraising campaign, see the details, see the donations, see the proof of use of fund that you upload after you make your fundraising campaign. And most importantly, we're trying to make it the giving hub for Nigerians, a platform where you can just go at any time, pick up any kind of project under any category, put money there, knowing fully well that we are trying our best to make it the authentic hub for social impact. So that's what we're trying to do.
Jazakumullah khairan. Just before we come to the end of the session, I'd like to read a comment and also a question. Okay, so brother Amudato here is saying that additionally to the small names / upcoming organizations should include in their trust drive to be a man of their words. Trust. Use the funds for what was raised for, and also ensure that they give reports to all individuals that donated. This one says, very useful and interesting session. I have a not-for-profit registered 3 years ago, stuck on building the right structure and organizational mindset. I hope my brothers are open for consultation. So I could link you together, inshallah, after the program and see how they can help. Also, please, we would like to have the details of the outfits of our brothers, contacts and so on. So please, could you help us drop your website link or any other useful information in the chats so that whoever needs it can just pick it from this call? And then to the question, what are the practical ways for individuals to build structures since they'll still be using their personal accounts? So who wants to take the question?
Can you?
So the question is, what are the practical ways for individuals to build structures since they'll still be using their personal accounts?
All right. So when I say structure, it's already automatic. It automatically takes out using your personal account. Like the very fact about mentioning structure, it already means you can no longer use your personal account because that is not structure. At the same time, so what I mean by structure is you could come together, have other people that you're working with as trustees, get yourself registered if you can. That's if you don't want to go the route of using helper or dinaries, because that automatically forces you to have some level of structure. But if you still want to go ahead to do it, to have a go at it by yourself, so first of all, you need to get yourself registered, and not just you as the trust, as a sole trustee, have other people too, and make sure that funds cannot leave the account except it is actually signed off by 2-3 people, and then you come up with providing reports of how you get the money, how much you've gotten, maybe monthly or quarterly financial reports should do, and then also maybe you could have an impact report as well. So that is you putting in structure. But automatically, if you are an individual that wants to put in structure, you cannot use a personal account. It's like it's the first level of it. You can't use your personal account because there's no structures around personal accounts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the domain I was also playing in before I decided, even though I was being transparent, even though I had people who were working together and trusted me blindly, it doesn't make sense. Like long term, it doesn't make sense. Like the trust me bro benchmark doesn't work. You have to do more to be more transparent. Even if you have people around, it's still not very good that you have the money in your own personal account. Even if you have a team that you're working with, try to make it better. At least move it away to a registered entity and a registered account where you have multiple signatories, or better still, use any of the platforms that you have now to conduct your fundraisers.
Over to you, Malam Abdul Latif.
Jazakallah khair for Abdul Akinde for steering the conversation so far. I see a question about what advice can you give to an existing organization using the organization's account to fundraise for a program? Is that professional enough, or any advice for a better result? I think if an organization is using its own account that is not controlled by an individual, and of course, that's proper. Except if you have a situation where you have an organization, but you still use the founder's, account to fundraise, and so that one is wrong. So using your organization's account is the gold standard for any nonprofit. And I mean, I've been in this space for quite a while. Trust me when I say I've seen things that we do. And of course, sometimes the anyhowness that is allowed, especially within the Muslim community, where we struggle with structure. I think all of the question has been addressed, except there is really any other question. I believe we reach a very good point in this conversation. First off, before I give the mic to Brother Abdul Hafiz to round us up, I want to say that this conversation is not just like another talk. Yes, we've talked about things, we come together, we just chit chat, and the point of it, like I used to say back then in the university, like the objective of the cloud is not the rain, rather it is the fruit. The objective of coming together and talking about rethinking Islamic philanthropy, fundraising, is not just that we would take and say, oh, we talked about it, or we've had a session about it. Oh, it was brilliant. That's not the objective. It's not about the brilliancy or not brilliancy of the session, as much as where do we move forward as a community? How do we, rethink what we're doing? If you happen to fall in the category of a donor, if you happen to fall in the category, which I often say we should try as much as possible not to, be, which is the beneficiary. But if you happen to be the midline between the two, which is like my own work life, where you are helping others to fundraise for different causes that they have. So how do you help that community understand the message of how their system and structure should proceed? Because, for instance, and I have worked with multiple zakat giving agencies in Nigeria, what we often see is a stopgap. We get this much zakat and we start sharing fridge. We start giving things that we know that we're just recycling poverty within our community. Yes, it might address some immediate need. It might address some immediate need, but the biggest question is that how or where we're steering our ummah as a community? Is that the direction we want to face? And I know that there's been a couple of response of bringing some of these zakat giving agencies together and see how they can, devote some percentage of their fundraiser to, moving the needle in terms of big business bets, like the MBF, the Muslim Business Fund. And we hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make this conversation as we have it go through. I see a couple of hands up. I'll take Brother Salaudin and I would answer the question. Oh, yeah, Brother Salaudin, go ahead.
All right, so I'm sorry for taking us back. I just wanted to also highlight when we're saying individuals in terms of structure, I still believe that the best is to use help our dinaries because it's already automatically abstracts a lot of the structural needs that you'd have. One of them is on helper. At least I'm certain on helper is in addition to the fact that you could raise funds and it's transparent and all, we also have tools that are specific for NGOs where you could have a website built for you in like 30 minutes and some other tools and we keep evolving these tools to better serve NGOs. So when you're coming, you don't need to start worrying about building the tech or your online presence and all those things. So these are some other things that you could actually get as extra benefits. But that being said, we still just needed to clarify that. So the structure mostly that you'd need if you are an individual that wants to make impact, it's already available. But if you are intent on reinventing the wheels, so please go ahead to take all the advice that we had suggested earlier. I just needed to make that point.
Yeah, somebody is asking you, Tokped, is there the opportunity for individuals to volunteer as member on the Hopper platform?
Yes, please. I think our CEO is currently responding. Rashida Amodin, she's the CEO of Helper, so she's responding. However, the sister can also reach out to me. I think I dropped my phone number earlier in the chat, so you can also reach out to me too. Yeah.
So since we do not have any other question, before I turn the mic, I thank you, Brother Tawfiq Salahuddin, Brother Ridwan, and every single one of us that have showed up so far. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would help us be those of the Ansar, the helpers, and we are able to help make our ummah to dynamically raise the support the way we need it and be able to use it to the best of to better the case for our community. I would yield the mic back to Brother Abdulhafiz.
All right, thank you very much.
The head with caps. You know, just remember what our Imam was saying in university. Look at heads without caps. Mashallah.
Oh, may Allah make us better Muslims. So usually we try to end this program at 11:30, but due to the nature of this one, it's a panel session. We do not want to restrict the discussion. We want people to enjoy the conversation, and that's why it has extended till this time. So we apologize for spending more time than usually earmarked for it. Finally, I'd like to invite our mother, Professor Nazmat Bakinde, to also chip in one or two things, because I know she has wealth of experience. She also operates, on the welfare level, and I'm sure that our insights would also be of benefit to us. And then after she has addressed us, I'd like to call on our Financial Secretary, Brother Ibrahim Adesoye, to end the conversation. Over to you, Prof.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Engineer Fitz. I thank all our brothers for this highly impactful and enlightening session. I've learned a lot. Yes, like my brother said, I also started a foundation which I call Miniwama Support and Care Foundation, which started after this during the COVID-19, when I was at home and we had teachers who could not be paid coming to our house for help here and there, and we had so many colleagues around like that. Yes, I've learned so much from all you have said. The best is for one to caution oneself, to have a structured one, so that because because sometimes you do it unconsciously without knowing. Yeah, I've also seen so many scams. I've witnessed some that came to my house. I went to the house to go and investigate, but at the end of the day, it was a scam. It was a big scam, and we've already donated, we've contributed. In fact, some of the money it's me, I had to go back to those who donated and said, this is a scam. Should I still go ahead? And they told me, well, I should not give it to her. I can use the money for any other charity, but definitely not her. So we experience all this every now and then. May Allah accept all we have done as ibadah from all of us. Yeah, we really need all this. I've come to a level myself now that it is not all this advert that I see that I jump into, because I've done that in the past and I know that there are errors which have been committed. But I pray that Allah will forgive all of us. For all you have said this morning, may Allah accept it as ibadah. May it weigh as hujjah for you all and not against you. Thank you so much for this. I pray we are able to really make this, to really benefit ourselves, the Ummah, as much as begging is not allowed. We have some very